Hey guys, so the video I'm filming this week is slightly different. I'm going to be taking you guys to my food challenge with me. So I'm having a food challenge to Brazil nuts, so hopefully that all goes well. So to prepare for this, I am wearing nice comfy clothing because it's a long appointment. I've got my mum and dad coming with me just for company because it's a long test, so definitely bring someone with you. If you can't bring anyone with you, bring like a book or download some movies on Netflix or something. And make sure not to take any antihistamines for a few days. That's been actually quite tough because it's been pretty hay fevery the last few days in London. So I'll be taking you guys into the food challenge with me, so see you in a moment. A food challenge is a medical procedure where you're given your suspected allergen in small and increasing doses under medical supervision to either diagnose or rule out whether you've got a true food allergy. So this is me in the hospital just waiting to get my food challenge started. I'm having a food challenge to Brazil nuts because I had a previous negative blood test result to this allergy. So a food challenge is the safest way to either diagnose a Brazil nut allergy or to rule it out as a true allergy. So to begin with, the nurse is giving me a skin prick test to test whether I react to Brazil nuts. So for this, we are using an actual Brazil nut that I brought in with me. And then we wait about 10 to 15 minutes to see how my skin reacts to this. If it does react, there is a suggestion that I could be allergic to Brazil nuts, which could put a stop to any food challenge starting. So to begin with, there wasn't a big reaction to Brazil nuts on my arm, but after about 15 minutes, there was quite a large bump on my arm, as you can see from the picture. The nurse then consulted the doctor to see what would be the best course of action, and he spoke with me, and I decided that I would like to go ahead with the food challenge even though there was some risk of reaction, but he did warn me that this could happen. So before we start the food challenge itself, my blood pressure is measured along with my pulse and my peak flow as well to see what my regular blood pressure, pulse and peak flow is so that they can compare it throughout. I then had to sign a consent form just saying that I understood what the test was and that I was happy to proceed with it. So the first thing that they did in the food challenge was the nurse rubbed a bit of Brazil nut on my inner lips, and then we waited a bit to see how I reacted to this. So around 10 to 15 minutes passed and I had no reaction. It was then safe to proceed to the next part of the food challenge, which was me chewing a very small bit of Brazil nut and spitting it out without ingesting anything. So a few minutes passed and I noticed that I was getting some slight allergic symptoms. I started to get some tingling in my throat, which is my usual initial symptoms to an allergic reaction. I then told the nurse and we decided that it was best for me to stop the food challenge. And then my blood pressure, pulse and peak flow was measured to make sure that I wasn't going into any form of anaphylaxis and that my reaction wasn't too serious. Luckily, I was okay and it was just the initial kind of mild symptoms to an allergic reaction that I was experiencing. So we put a stop to the test and then I waited in the waiting room for about an hour to make sure that I didn't have any delayed reactions. I'm not really surprised that this was the outcome. I've never really been able to eat that kind of nut anyway, but of course there is a level of disappointment because I was hoping I'd be able to get a little bit further in the food challenge and be able to tolerate a bit more Brazil nut than I was able to. Before the food challenge, I did have a positive skin prick test reaction to Brazil nut, but I'd had a negative blood test from a couple of years ago that suggested that I wasn't actually allergic to Brazil nut, so we thought it might be a good idea to try it. The doctor did warn me and say there was a chance that I would react, but I decided that I wanted to go ahead with the food challenge to see exactly how much Brazil nut I could tolerate, and unfortunately it wasn't as much as I would have liked. Even though I didn't get that far in the food challenge, I was talked through what would happen next and I was given some information about that. So I wanted to explain to you guys what the rest of the food challenge would be like. So if I was able to continue the food challenge, I would have been asked to actually eat a very small amount of Brazil nut next, then wait around 15 minutes and checking all my pulse, blood pressure and peak flow in between to make sure that I was having no reactions. And then the amount of Brazil nut that I would have been asked to eat would have been increased at each stage with those checks in between, until it got to a significant amount where you know that you're okay with that food. You'd always be kept in the hospital for at least another hour to make sure that you weren't having any delayed reactions. So when we stopped my food challenge, I waited in the hospital for around another hour, and then they checked all my blood pressure and peak flow and pulse again just to make sure that I was okay. So it is a very safe procedure, but I would definitely reiterate to never ever try this at home. If you do suspect that you may be able to eat something, speak to your allergist and see if you can have a food challenge in a controlled environment like the hospital. Do not try this at home. So that's it for this video. I really hope that you found it useful to see how a food challenge is done in the hospital. And if you have any questions or if I've missed anything out, please make sure to leave that in the comments below. And if you are going for a food challenge, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks guys, and stay safe.